Moving here now. I couldn't live with that forest before because, animals, they were weird and stuff. And then I couldn't live, by NT's house. So, living at this place kind of sucks. Rained on me for about an hour yesterday. Rain, just water, just tons of water on me for an hour. What reminds me of water? And an hour long special. When you look at a show like The Fairly OddParents, it was airing around the same time as SpongeBob was. Yet that show has so many hour-long specials. I think just in season 4 and 5 alone, there's 6, 3 in each season.
Tanner! You're not Shemp! You're not even Curly Joe!
Another show too that was airing at also the exact same time, Jimmy Neutron. This show was notorious for special episodes. I got to the point that where by season 3, they pretty much almost lost. Majority of the season was special episodes. Not full hour-long specials, but mainly instead of 2 11-minute segments in an episode, there'd be more like a full 22-minute episode.
Another Neutron special.
But the thing is, those were Nickelodeon's second and third biggest show at the time. What about their biggest? SpongeBob. Did SpongeBob ever do hour-long specials? No. Not at all. At least in terms of when these shows were airing. I get that Fairly OddParents was brought back in 2008, but I'm mainly talking about the original show, the first 5 seasons, just for this case. I kind of get why, because for most of season 3 of SpongeBob, they were working on the SpongeBob movie, and that was already extending a SpongeBob length of an episode from just 11 or the occasional 22 minutes to a full hour and a half long movie. So I get why there were no hour-long specials in the classic era. The closest we got to big special events were the 22-minute episodes, like the Christmas Who, SpongeBob BC, SpongeBob's House Party, and the Lost episode. Those were all big events, but they were never hour-long specials or anything. Again, I get why, because they were working on a massive special. So when I say hour-long specials, a lot of these, not all of them, but a lot of these were just 45-minute specials of the Fairly OddParents and Jimmy Neutron. But for the SpongeBob movie, 45 minutes is pretty much only half the length of what they did for that one. So again, I get why there was none in the classic era, and I also kind of get why there were none in season 4, because it was right after the movie. But the first time in SpongeBob ever they did an actual hour-long special, or 45-minute special, that was an episode of the actual show, was the season 5 episode Atlantis SquarePantis, which aired in 2007, which was over 8 years after the series started.
Yo, next Monday, let's take a ride. We got this awesome van, so step inside. We're headed on down to the city of Atlantis, where you can't have the square if you don't have the panties. The oldest living bubble that we hope won't burst is in a new TV movie that is SpongeBob's first. Patchy is the host, and to make it even hotter, he's underwater.
It's an all-day journey leading up to SpongeBob's brand new movie, Atlantis SquarePantis.
Dive, dive, dippity-dive. The SpongeBob event starts Monday at 9.
Back when this was coming out, this was a super hyped up event. This was the first time there was a game based on a specific episode of SpongeBob. There was the SpongeBob movie game, which was specifically based on that, but this was I think the first time there was ever a game just based on a single episode of the show. There were 3 versions: the console version, the Game Boy Advance version, and the DS version. The Game Boy Advance PS2 versions I heard are pretty mediocre, but the DS version, surprisingly, is apparently a pretty good game overall, so I've got to check that out sometime. What's mainly interesting about this is that in SpongeBob, there are only 3 actual hour-long specials in the show. This one from season 5, and the 2 anniversary specials. Truth or Square, which was the 10th anniversary special during season 6, which was in 2009, and then SpongeBob's Big Birthday Blowout, which was in 2019 for SpongeBob's 20th anniversary. And it's crazy thinking that episode was 5 years ago, because I watched that episode the day it came out, so that's kind of wild. This episode I'm talking about is the only time in SpongeBob when they genuinely made an hour-long special that wasn't for an anniversary or anything. Something like a Abracatastrophe from the Fairly OddParents, or a Win Lose Kaboom or something like that from Jimmy Neutron. These are made as anniversary episodes. They were just made as longer form stories. These weren't big special events and stuff like that. Even Truth or Square, there's not much actual plot to it, because half the thing is it's live action with Patchy, and it's more of a anniversary special thing. It's not a crazy hour-long story thing, if that makes any sense. There's a lot of rating trap stuff, a lot of sort of clip show stuff, like fake clip show stuff, like fake clips put in. Anyways, I don't need to get into this episode too much now. I might get to it later. But what I'm really here to talk about is the Season 5 episode of Atlantis SquarePantis, which was the first ever hour-long special of the show. I'm still surprised they never did many hour-long specials of SpongeBob, because this one, for example, got nearly 9 million viewers. That's very impressive. Okay, so I'm gonna get into the plot of the special. So it pretty much starts with Sponge and Patrick wanting to have a bubble that'll last all day, and then eventually they find this other half of the amulet in this cave to Atlantis. They go to the museum to take it there. Squidward's also at the museum, just coincidentally that day. And he thinks Sponge and Patrick took the half of the amulet that's there, but he finds out that Sponge and Patrick found the lost half of the amulet. So also, Mr. Krabs is there, and Sandy's there. Again, doesn't really make sense where they're like all at the same museum at the same time. Plus, according to the episode, it takes place on Tuesday, which is very strange, because I'm pretty sure SpongeBob, Squidward, and Mr. Krabs all have work on Tuesday. From what I remember, Sunday is their day off. And even if, like, I'm wrong about that, it's still kind of weird for them to have a Tuesday. That's the day they have off of the week. It's just kind of confusing. And again, just coincidentally, Sandy, Mr. Krabs, Squidward, and then SpongeBob and Patrick all being at the museum at the same time as, I don't know, it just kind of seems like this far-fetched idea, like, oh, they're all at this museum, which was never really used in the show all too much at this point anyways. I know there's a part of Battle for Bikini Bottom where you go through the museum, but that's also on Rock Bottom. This isn't like Bikini Bottom, so, again, it's just kind of weird. Anyways, whenever Squidward connects the two pieces of the amulet, it spawns this, like, tour bus, pretty much, and they all get in it, excited for Atlantis. And they figure out that it can't be powered by actual gas. They have to sing, which is really stupid. And that gets to a big thing in this episode. It's a musical as well, which it's not fully advertised as a musical, but there's like 10 songs in this thing, so it's pretty much just a musical. Okay, maybe there aren't actually 10 songs in the episode, but there's still a good amount of them. And the thing is, I'll get to this more later, I only really think like the first song of the episode is good. Pretty much every other song sucks. Also, whenever they're singing, you see Plankton sing for a bit, which, okay, this part is kind of confusing because, for one, if you stop singing, the thing will just crash out of the sky. So, for one, if in this scene right here, if Plankton is the one just singing, nobody else is singing, shouldn't the bus just stop being fueled? Because also, Plankton, they don't know he's here either. Plankton is just in this episode kind of out of nowhere. He's not at the, like, he might be at the museum, but you never see him. He's just in the glove box of the tour bus, just randomly. They don't ever explain it. Like, yeah, he's evil, he's gonna tag along with them, but there's not much setting up. He's pretty much just already there with them. But yeah, so if I'm to believe Plankton is the only one singing in this part, then why doesn't the bus just crash? And they do show, whenever it's Patrick's turn to sing in this part of the song, Patrick just can't say anything, which is kind of a funny joke, I guess. And then the tour bus crashes into Atlantis. I guess that just happens to work out perfectly like that. But yeah, they're in Atlantis now. Pretty much most of the rest of the special is just a tour by this Atlantean, voiced by David Bowie. And again, remember how I was saying this is a musical? Even though he's voiced by David Bowie, he doesn't have a song. Which, just like, why did you specifically have to get David Bowie then? You could have got somebody who doesn't sing, but like, why did you have to? It's David Bowie, give him a song in the episode. The thing is, pretty much the rest of the plot here is just the tour, like the tour of Atlantis. And like, so eventually each like member keeps leaving the tour guide to stay in a certain area until they later meet up for dinner. But the main reason, so each character has their own thing they want to go to Atlantis for. Mr. Krabs wants to go there for the money, Squidward wants to go there for the arts, Sandy for the science, and SpongeBob and Patrick. In the beginning of the episode, they were talking about how they want a bubble that'll last all day because they can't get pictures of their bubbles well, and they want a bubble to last a super long time. But they find out the oldest living bubble ever, which is like millions of years old, is in Atlantis. The only main conflict that arises is that SpongeBob and Patrick think they popped the bubble. Whenever they all meet up for dinner, the tour guide guy is like, "Oh no, you didn't actually destroy the bubble. That's just one that's like a prop we use for the, you know, tourists." And then he pulls out the actual bubble, and then one of like the funniest jokes I ever had. This is probably the funniest joke of the episode.
This is the real deal.
But yeah, so then when they actually do pop the real bubble, they run away because the Atlantean guy is like, "Guards, attack!" You know, because he's mad. And they all escape, and then eventually, once they leave the actual main inside of Atlantis, Plankton just shows up with his tank, and he's going to shoot him, but he shoots them with ice cream, actually. And then pretty much all that happens is that the Atlanteans are like, oh, Plankton would make a good thing to have instead of the bubble, which is already kind of weird. It's, you know, like, they've had this bubble millions of years. It's the most prized possession. They say in the episode, that'd be like if the Constitution was destroyed, but then somebody had this, like, goofy invention or something like that, and then just was able to replace it or something like that. Like, you can't do that. You know what I mean? But pretty much all that happens is that they get on the tour bus, and they have to sing back, and SpongeBob's the one that sings because everyone else is sad they're leaving Atlantis. Actually, the episode ends on a pretty sad and down note. Pretty much what happens is, it's entirely SpongeBob and Patrick's fault they get kicked out. You know, but Patrick wants to say, SpongeBob is still excited to get back to Bikini Bottom, but every other character there wants to stay in Atlantis. You know, and SpongeBob, when he's singing for them to, you know, get back to Bikini Bottom, everyone is like crying and stuff. They're sad they can't stay in Atlantis. You know, their lives in Atlantis were way better than they were in Bikini Bottom. They were enjoying everything so much. There was no real conflict. Like, oh, it's not like they got sick of it after a while. No, they enjoyed it, and it's SpongeBob and Patrick's fault that all of this happened. It ends like a sad note. You know what I mean? Like, when you're actually watching it, it doesn't feel like it ends on a sad note, but when you really think about it, the ending of it kind of sucks. I'll check the rest of it too, I guess. Yeah, spoiler alert, the episode is, I wouldn't say it's terrible, but I would never call it good. For one, I can't even really call it a guilty pleasure of mine. Again, I don't really like the episode that much, and with some stuff in like Truth or Square, I'll get another bad episode, and there's some stuff that I can kind of enjoy a little bit. Almost like a so bad it's good type thing. And again, Truth or Square, again, I guess has more charm to it. But this episode, like, man, there's only a few good things I can say about it. One, the opening song, SpongeBob and Patrick singing about the bubble that could last all day. Again, this is a musical. This is the only good song in the entire episode. Legitimately, it is a really good song.
I will try again to blow a bubble that will last all day.
I will say though, for Sandy's part, they have this whole weird like molecule thing, and also it's a big video game parody. Also, this is kind of funny. On the title screen of this like video game parody, because they actually have a title screen, it says Nickelodeon, and then like 1991. They really tried having this so retro type thing, but this was 2007. This was kind of before this so retro stuff even popped off. It was 2007, pretty ahead of its time for these retro video game craze. You know what I mean? I don't really get in the episode why it needed to be a video game parody, because like at first it's just SpongeBob's molecules get like shrunken and like, you know, like you can see them and stuff like that. How does this equate to a video game? So all Sandy pretty much does is fight off these illnesses and stuff for them. Why is this in the episode? It's so random. But I will say I actually like how it looks a lot. I think the pixel art style is actually pretty well represented, and it's super well animated too. This is the most fluently animated part of the entire episode. I mean, this is an actual arcade game in like 1991. It would not look this smooth. But I do like the animation here, and the actual pixel art stuff is really cool. Plus, there's like a reference to Dr. Mario and stuff like that. So, overall, I like the bit. The song still sucks, though. But I will say, overall, I think the actual visuals of this part are really good. I will say, though, for Mr. Krabs' part, where he's talking about money, and it's his own main song, I don't really think the visuals of it are that great. Almost as a Parappa the Rappa in styled section. It doesn't look that good, though. And then Squidward's is like this weird thing where he goes through paintings and stuff like that. It doesn't look that good, especially this one part. Like, it just looks like it's normal Squidward with this weird texture on him. It's super weird. Overall, it's not the worst looking thing ever. I like some of the imitations of the arts and stuff, but I don't know. This part just doesn't look the greatest. It is funny though, whenever like Squidward jumps into the painting, but it looks like Mario 64. That probably wasn't an intentional detail. I don't think it was. Maybe some like writer on the show had the inspiration or storyboarder or something. I don't know, but kind of funny, I guess. I also really hate the Atlanteans' designs. Like, they look so ugly. Like, you couldn't have made them even look slightly cool. They just look disgusting. Plankton's song isn't the worst. Like, it's a song I've never listened to outside of the episode. But I mean, like, it's supposed to be almost like this dictator type song, and like, I think in terms of the visuals, they actually made this part super well, but the song, I don't know, it just doesn't sound the greatest. If you want a good dictator song, listen to Go Poopy Pants. That's how you do a dictator song. In a cartoon, at least. See, I feel like my biggest problem with the episode overall probably has to do with what they do at Atlantis. Yeah, they go to Atlantis, but this setting isn't cool enough to just tour Atlantis. They do nothing here. So, if there was some conflict or some story here, I feel like this part would have been better, but, you know, when I say part, it's the whole episode. So everything is just dragged down from being pretty boring, honestly, of just these characters touring this city that, like, we had, like, it doesn't even look that cool. Like, I mean, I guess it looks fine, but, like, if you don't have, like, any conflict here until, like, maybe the very end, you know, like, in the episode, it just doesn't, like, work the greatest, you know? If there's a conflict throughout it, then sure, like, an actual story, not just them touring the setting they made up, which, again, not even the coolest. They almost sort of bring back this Atlantis idea in the third SpongeBob movie, Sponge on the Run. It's called Atlantic City, though, and it's just Vegas, but underwater. And I will say, I actually like this area a lot. In the movie, they don't do the most with it entirely, but I actually think this Vegas area could have made it for like a pretty good, like, classic SpongeBob episode. You know, have some crazy thing happen to them in Vegas. You know, there's not that much happens to them, but I will say I actually like this setting. They do some stuff with it, but I feel like they could have done, you know, better stuff. But this is how you do a setting that's already interesting. And again, they don't do that much with it, but still, at least I'm not entirely bored with this as I am with Atlantis SquarePantis, because at least it's like Vegas underwater, which is just kind of funny. Seeing SpongeBob and Patrick actually gamble is really funny. I do wish they expanded on this idea too, you know, because like in the SpongeBob movie, they show them getting drunk with ice cream. Maybe have like more adult things represented by SpongeBob. I think that's funny. They could have done more stuff with gambling, but again, they don't really do the most with it. But that's kind of like with a lot of stuff in Atlantis SquarePantis. It just feels like missed potential. Again, just the idea of all the characters going to Atlantis isn't the worst idea ever. They just don't really do anything with it. It's like when they were in the writer's room, they were pretty much just like, okay, so Nickelodeon wants us to do an hour-long special. What can we do? Take them to Atlantis. That's a good idea. That's a good idea, right? And then they just stopped. Because there's pretty much nothing else that happens in it. Again, like I said, there's no story to what they're doing in Atlantis. They just go to Atlantis and do random shenanigans. None of the characters really have an arc. Again, there's no story to really anything. And just like, pretty much the entire episode, again, feels like missed potential. My main thing with it too, is it's not even like, oh, nothing happens, but at least it's funny, right? Not really. There's a few funny jokes, like that one of Patrick just pulling out the camera again. That part is funny, but aside from that, there's not too many other good jokes in the episode. I like the detail of Mr. Krabs' pockets being like dogs, you know. I guess that's kind of funny. But again, see, it's like I'm grasping at straws to find good jokes in this episode. Again, it's a 45-minute special, and I can't really find that much funny stuff in it. The thing is, though, even though I say 45-minute special, technically, the actual cartoon part of it isn't a full 45 minutes. Because we have live-action segments with Patchy the Pirate. Patchy is just this crazy pirate guy that loves the cartoon SpongeBob. He's obsessed with SpongeBob. And all of his live-action segments were always fun. They were stupid, but they were fun. They're like intentionally made with like the lowest budget as possible, and it's just Tom Kenny doing random shenanigans. They have substance to them, but these segments were always just goofy and stupid, you know. They were funny, of course, still, but they were always good still. In fact, in some episodes, Patchy has the better segments of them. For example, in the Splinter Blast episode, The Sponge Could Fly, I'd say Patchy definitely has the better part of the that episode, you know. I actually think that episode is probably the best for, like, Patchy segment, just period, in my opinion. A similar thing with SpongeBob's house party. The episode's alright. I actually have defended it more than other people have, because I think the base idea is SpongeBob having a house party with all his friends isn't a bad idea, you know, and everything, but I don't think they executed it that well. But anyways, yeah, I think the Patchy segments of this are much better. It's pretty much just an exact mirror of SpongeBob stuff, like, oh, Patchy also has a house party, but I feel like this one actually, again, is better than the SpongeBob portion. Patchy's also in a few more episodes. I know he's in a bit of Shanghai, mainly the You Wish part of it, which, you know, isn't in the reruns. He's also in Christmas Eve. He doesn't play that big of a role in that one, actually, though. What else is he in? Oh, he's in UGG, or SpongeBob BC, it's just what I always call it. That's the Caveman SpongeBob episode. The live-action segments are actually super good as well, although this one, I don't fully know if the actual animation segments are better. I always somewhat hated this episode because it's not bad, but, like, for one, the 2001 parody, I don't know, kind of goes on for a little too long, and also, mean, I don't know. The characters don't even talk in it, and there's some fun came in, stuff. I've grown to like it a lot more over the years, but I like the old Patchy's live action stuff probably, honestly, more. But for this episode is the weirdest Patchy stuff probably in the entire show. His plot is pretty much, oh, he's in traffic and he's late for the new SpongeBob episode. And when he gets back to his home, which is in Encino, California, which is always funny, he's this crazy pirate guy in SpongeBob, but like, he lives in like Encino, California. It just feels very sitcom, which is always been super funny. Anyways, whenever he gets back to his home, it's just a desert, like a wasteland. There's like nothing here. Patchy has like hallucinations and stuff like that from the heat and stuff like that. It's super random. There's this weird bit with like SpongeBob and stuff like that, and then there's this bit where he dreams he's back in Encino, which this part is actually funny. There's a little song. This is actually probably my favorite Patchy stuff of the episode.
I'm back in Encino. You gotta believe it was out of sight. You gotta believe I'm back in Encino. You gotta believe everything's alright.
But the thing is, after he stops having this hallucination, when you see him again next, he's like, oh, where's Encino? And these aliens just like appear. I'm like, oh, sorry, we struck your town. So they make it big again, and that's pretty much just Patchy stuff. This is so weird. Patchy's stuff is always very inconsistent, because sometimes Patchy, like, lives in the normal real world, as shown in the Christmas episode, and also the Lost episode. Pretty much all that stuff is real. You know, I guess the Lost episode being with the map and stuff, it's kind of crazy, but it still feels like it's in the real world, you know? But then there's other times, like the house party episode where there's like a mermaid and stuff like that. And then also the SpongeBob BC special. I don't even know if that one's canon for the Patchy stuff, because he's like in the past and there's all this future stuff. It's I don't even know if that stuff is canon even for Patchy. This episode is weird though, because it feels like a mix. Like, it feels like it's real, but at the same time, Encino just being gone and there being aliens feels so strange, and it's all just never explained. Like, in these weird, like, middle seasons of SpongeBob, like, the bad era, I guess. Season 5 isn't fully the bad era yet, that mainly starts with Season 6. But I think it was some weird concepts. I think in this same season, they had the episode Spongehenge, which is just, like, one of the most bizarre episodes in the series. Like, just, period. I think the writers really like toying with these crazy, weird concepts in these seasons, because, again, that Spongehenge, the Patchy stuff, Squidward and Clarinet Land, which was a little bit later, that was like Season 7, but still, they really like experimenting with this weird stuff. But again, Patchy stuff is just kind of weird. I like his Encino song, but this is actually the one time I don't really like the Patchy stuff in it that much. I do kind of like some of the stuff in the traffic part of the beginning. It's not the greatest, obviously could be better, but I do like the detail. Then where Patchy like breaks his car, like stops his car, he puts an anchor down because he drives like a boat. That part's actually kind of funny. The weird thing I realized is that Patchy never actually watches the SpongeBob episode in this one. You know? Like, he never gets to watch Atlantis SquarePantis. Probably good on him, because the episode, you know, sucks. And I keep saying this, but the main problem I have with the episode is it just keeps feeling like missed potential. You know? Like, them going to Atlantis isn't a bad concept, there's just no story around it. You know? I think all this Atlantis stuff could have been cool, and again, I'd like to see another hour-long special of SpongeBob. But, I mean, I guess there's 4 movies, but, like, this type of stuff just doesn't happen often, you know? And, like, for them, like, their actual one time, they did an hour-long special. That was not a anniversary celebration extravaganza thing. For it to be this, an episode I would probably consider worse than Truth or Square, honestly. It's just sad, man. It's not really funny, it's a musical, and only one song in it is good. Doesn't have a good story plot, there's no character arcs or like anything. They got a guest celebrity, David Bowie, doesn't sing a song, which probably would have been the only other good song in the episode. Apparently, production started on this episode around like mid-2006, which is crazy because that was when Season 4 episodes were just still airing. It took them like a year to make this. Really? A year to make this. Again, it's just all missed potential. I see a good episode in here. I guess, to be fair, that's pretty much every single bad thing that comes out. Oh, there's potential for it to be good. Atlantis SquarePantis had a good idea. They just executed it really badly. It almost didn't execute it. They just had the base thing. SpongeBob goes to Atlantis, and that's pretty much it. Again, this thing was a super big deal when it came out. Got like 9 million viewers, had 3 video game tie-ins, was super promoted, and it led to this. An episode where pretty much nothing happens in it. They go to Atlantis, and that's it. It ends on a sad note. It starts with a, actually, decent note because of the song, but I just wish this episode could have been made better. Put a story in it, get some more funny jokes, give David Bowie a song, change Plankton a little bit, make the patch stuff a little better, and I think this could have been a really, at least decent episode. Maybe not the greatest thing ever, but at least it would have something to it. Overall, I give it like a 4 out of 10, and in my opinion, that's honestly being kind of generous. Man, there's only a few things I like, so overall I guess I'd have to give it a 4 based on the amount of things I like in it. And even that's being generous. If you actually have the amount of things I like in a 45-minute episode, it's probably a like 1 or maybe 2, you know. But overall, the episode that exists was the only time they did an hour-long special, which I've always really wanted for this show to do more of. And this is what we got: missed potential. And that was Atlantis SquarePantis. I'm gonna try finding a new place because this place. Oh my god, no!